the Manny Pacquiao fight. Um, I like what I saw out of him. I like um, seemed kind of a lot more engaged into his fight. Looked like he came into the fight with a lot of confidence. The styles of the two fighters, from the very beginning, just looked like a very, a rejuvenated fighter. Pacquiao had a couple of bad losses the last couple of fights, but for the most part, man, I think I like what I saw for him. They're really trying to promote a big fight coming up for him next. For the most part, I thought this was a fight that, Manny, he pretty much uh, dominated from the very beginning. He looked a lot quicker, a lot faster than, it doesn't really look like a 39-year-old guy. He looks like he's in pretty damn good shape. So, Pacquiao, I love to see if he has anything left. We already know we're not going to get anything from Floyd Mayweather. He's pretty much gone from the game. And like I said, man, I really like what I saw out of Pacquiao. But, man, boxing, for me, it's just not what it used to be, man. I really want to get back into boxing. This is my first look. I mean, if you go from Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, all these good fighters, Roberto Duran, Tommy the Hitman Hearns, these guys, boy, man, it really is, boxing, the history of boxing. You go back from even, the 60s, the 70s, Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston, these type of fighters, man. I was excited to see, I really was excited to see these guys, but, today, it's just not worth anything. It really isn't worth my time. It's not worth, even watching. A lot of these guys are like Floyd Mayweather. They only in it for the paycheck. They dodge the best talent. They've dodged everyone so they can, make the most money. A lot of these promoters are not, they're not putting on good shows, and they robbing each other and robbing the fans. Not like it used to be, man. It's just a whole bunch of, to be honest, it's a whole bunch of nothing. I just rather, watch old clips of old fights, like Roy Jones Jr., one of my favorite fighters. I love to see Roy Jones Jr. in his heyday. When you see a guy that's quick, fast, and have knockout power, like Roy, man, you just get spoiled by, you know, by those fights. And today, it's not. You still have some fighters that are worth watching, but it's just not. A lot of fighters just don't have that it fight factor anymore. You see all these guys that's getting, you see a lot of these fighters are getting in trouble for steroids and, the off the field problems. It's just not the same, man. I just wish boxing would just come back and stop all the politicking. You have this issue with, what's the fighter name? Oscar De La Hoya. These guys are just, it's just Oscar De La Hoya for me, man. He really is a guy that I expect more out of. He was one of the the main guys, the main fighters complaining with the ducking fights and whatnot. And all he's doing right now as a promoter is doing the exact same thing. He's just concerned about making money. Boxing's just not the same anymore, man. It's just a lot of these guys just ducking fights. Only picking fighters they know they could beat, and fighters that really don't have a chance. It's just not exciting anymore, man. But for the most part, man, like I said before, boxing is not the same. I wish it would be, I wish it would come back and, just get a fan something to be excited about. I'm not excited about anything right now in boxing. The only thing I'm excited about boxing is, seeing 50 Cent say something stupid. Why these guys have nothing to do with boxing? I mean, this boxing is just, you have Wilder, Deontay Wilder, and Johnson. That's about the only thing. Those are about the only fighters I'm really excited about in boxing. Heavyweight division is pretty much non-existent. A lot of these guys, like I said before, most of these guys are just ducking each other so they can, get as much money as possible. And you have these old guys like Bob Arum. A lot of these guys are just, and the fighters, they're not in a position where they can demand a certain amount of money like a Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao. These guys are just being used, man. And man, for me, like I said, I would just wish boxing would make a comeback to where it was in the heyday. And one of my favorite fighters of all time is Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, if he would, Mike Tyson, before he got with Don King, he got with Don King and pretty much lost himself. He lost pretty much, oh my gosh. Mike Tyson lost a lot and being with Don King. I mean, he made a lot of money, but he lost himself, his style of boxing. Mike Tyson, uh, when he was with Customato and his team, those guys had him one of the best looking heavyweights of all time. He was on the path to be the greatest, one of the greatest behind Muhammad Ali, heavyweights of all time. But you have guys, he got with Don King, started using a lot of drugs, hanging around the wrong people, just careless and ignorant, getting caught up in the lifestyle, the fast lifestyle, Hollywood lifestyle. He just lost himself, man. Drugs, alcohol, pretty much killed Mike Tyson's career. But for the most part, man, Mike Tyson, he's one of those guys that had tremendous power. He could hit you, knock you out with either hand. I mean, he's a lefty. He was converted lefty. He's a lefty, and Customato changed his entire. And he could knock you out with each hand. He could knock you out with the right hand and left hand. So Mike Tyson, his speed, his power, his quickness, man, Mike Tyson was just in his heyday. I don't think it was a more feared guy in boxing besides George Foreman there has ever been in boxing. So, man, like I said before, man, boxing, I still to this day sit back and relax and just watch a lot of old boxing matches where I can see real fighting. A lot of guys that's going at it, and Floyd Mayweather may be one of the greatest defensive fighters of all time, but he's bored as shit. Floyd Mayweather is bored as shit, and he ducked a lot of fighters early in his career. And a lot of people, 48 and all this type of shit. Yeah, he might be 48, 40. But Floyd Mayweather, man, like I'll tell people all the time, Floyd Mayweather is one of the most overrated fighters of all time. He fight in a generation of fighters where Oscar De La Hoya, you had Oscar De La Hoya, a lot of them guys, they were just, they were pretty much out of the prime. You wanted to fight those guys in their prime, and Mayweather, he ducked every last one of those guys. He ducked Pacquiao in his prime. He finally got to fight Pacquiao, and Pacquiao was, injured. He was older, and it really wasn't a good fight. The fight that we wanted to see 2-3 years prior. Now, this is what's wrong with boxing. A lot of these guys, they don't fight guys. They don't put up the fights that fans want to see when they want to see them. They wait 2-3 years after the fighters, got a lot older, and and they put it on. That Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather fight was absolute travesty. They don't want to see that shit. And then after the fight, we found out that Manny Pacquiao was injured, and Floyd Mayweather knew it. So, like I said before, man, boxing is so fucking. It's to a point where I would love to see a fight, and I would love to see a good fight on. But I think the only way boxing is going to come back in any way, as as it was, as popular as it was back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Only way it's going to come back if these guys put more fights, more free fights on ESPN and on network televisions. Because at this point, man, you have a couple of guys that they're interested in seeing, but for the most part, man, nobody knows who the hell these guys are. These promoters, they're doing a terrible, terrible job of marketing the sport because they're so concerned about making money, and it's killing the sport. It really is killing the damn sport. But what would it take for boxing to come back, heavyweight division to come back, and you have to put these guys on network 70, like I just said. Network TV, get more exposure to these guys, and these old guys like Bob Arum, the old promoters like Bob Arum, these guys have to go. Simple and plain. These guys have to fucking go. It's killing the sport. No one wants to watch this shit. No one wants to watch that shit. And it's to a point for me, no, I would rather watch UFC than watch boxing. And I do not like UFC at all. I think all those guys are fucking roided up. I mean, it is a blood sport. For me, these guys may be skilled. All right, they may be skilled. I'm not denying it. But the rules, and you have a guy like Dana White who's making so much money off these fighters, so much fucking money off these fighters, and then getting chump change for these fights. I mean, Conor McGregor did so much for the sport. You had Rousey did so much for the sport, and they got fucking killed. They got killed. They got raped. Dana White ass raped them. He made hundreds of millions of dollars, and these fighters barely got 12 to 15 million dollars a fight. Barely that. So UFC, there's a lot of Khabib and another guy. I'm tired of his mouth. Khabib is just a guy, and maybe he is a tough guy. Maybe he's one of the greatest of all time, but he just talked too much for me. He reminds me of CL Punk, a guy that believes in himself, and I have no problem with believing in yourself, but he just walks around like he's a fucking, a Don or something, like, just bullying a lot of people. And, right now in the UFC, he can do that. There's not a lot of guys in the UFC who can whoop his ass. So for me, man, I would much rather watch the UFC than watch boxing right now, because UFC does an excellent job of, at least showcasing the talent. And they want fighters with one, personality, shit talking, and two, they want to see knockouts. Simple and plain. People want to see fucking knockouts. Nobody want to see fucking defensive fight. Nobody want to see Floyd Mayweather, running in fucking circles. Nobody want to see that shit. I know I don't want to see that shit. Give me a show. The entire fight with boxing, guys, in boxing, is Floyd Mayweather running in fucking circles, winning every fight. I mean, that shit is boring. I love to see a defensive fight. I love to see a good fight. Guys, doing things to, showcasing all the talent. And defensive fighting is a huge part of the sport. But I want to see something exciting. I want to see the guys talking in the ring. I want to see the guys getting knocked the fuck out, like Mike Tyson. Give me a variety of fights, not the same shit over and over again with Floyd Mayweather. Those guys. Now, like I said before, SOG retired, came back. I mean, he retired, just doesn't want to fight anymore. And, like I said, man, the boxing, it is so corrupt right now. There's no telling when these guys will be, when boxing will come back. It's not gonna come back anytime soon. Cause like I said before, a lot of these old ass promoters, Don King, Bob Arum, These guys are just ass rape the sport for so many freaking years. Only way boxing is going to make a comeback, and these guys just get the hell on, and these guys just fucking croak. All right, these old bastards, these old ass promoters who only their only job or the only thing they wants to do is to, you know, pretty much rob of these fighters of what they're truly worth. I mean, Deontay Wilder, if I'm not mistaken, and Johnson, those guys was offered like 50, like 50 million for a $200 million fight. I mean, that shit is ridiculous. Floyd Mayweather averages at least $100 million a fight. At least that. You offering this guy $50 million, and he has to split that with his team. You really are a piece of crap. I mean, it's getting to a point in boxing, and it's past that point. Not getting to this point. It's past the point where boxing is these promoters, man. It's just embarrassing to watch a sport that was once America's favorite. And I want to get back into the history again, but like I said before, man, I want to see I want to see good fights, quality fights on network TV, so you can showcase these guys' talent. Because a lot of people don't want to pay, $60, $70 for, $100 to watch this piece of crap boxing. Nobody want to pay to see that shit. Nobody want to pay $150 to even see the fighters. You don't have no idea. People don't know these guys. They're not a household name. I can do a horrible job of promoting these fighters. So, like I said before, man, just wish boxing would make a comeback, and hopefully it gets the Wilder and Johnson. Those guys get to fight, but I'm not holding my breath for that fight. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. They promoters want money, and I don't think it will happen. At least for the next 2 years or so, which is fucking sad because everybody wants that fight, and it's not gonna happen. But this is something else that I wanted to talk about. I was asked by a subscriber, loyal listener, about the Atlanta Falcons, Julio Jones. Julio freaking Jones. All right, Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson. Which guy is better? I will say this. Calvin Johnson is probably one of the most unstoppable deep threats there has ever been in the league. This guy has tremendous ability, tremendous speed. He can jump out of the freaking gym, 6'4", 6'5", can jump out of the gym, and he's a big, end zone target. That's something Julio is. But again, man, when you don't have a offensive coordinator who knows what he's doing, like the Falcons had Kyle Shanahan, and even then, Kyle Shanahan didn't do a lot. Kyle Shanahan didn't get Julio in the end zone. The Falcons scored a lot of touchdowns, but Julio Jones only had 6 touchdowns in the 2016 season. Had a lot of numbers. The first year, 2015, I think he caught 38, almost 140 passes during that time. But man, Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson. Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson. I have to go with Julio Jones because Julio Jones is one of those guys who can run every single route in the route tree. He has tremendous ability to get off the run after the catch. Definitely has a lot of ability to run after the catch. He take a slant and go 99 yards. I really haven't seen a lot of that from Calvin Johnson. So if you ask me, man, I'm gonna go Julio Jones because I've seen Julio Jones pretty much run every freaking route. Julio Jones break tackles like a fucking running back. Unbelievably talented. This guy can jump out of the gym. Now he's not as tall as Calvin Johnson, but this guy is a hell of an athlete. Julio Jones can do everything. One thing that Calvin Johnson can't do, if you ask me, is run every single route. He was spectacular, elite with fly routes, post routes, going across the middle, with crossing routes and whatnot. He could do that, but as far as him being a run after the catch receiver, that's something that Julio has to with Calvin Johnson, Calvin Ridley. So let me know what you guys think about this man, Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones. Which one of you guys? What guy do you think that are best? Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson. Like I said, I already gave my opinion on that. Julio Jones is definitely a guy that has tremendous ability, and I don't think he's going to slow down anytime soon. He's had some issues with injuries and whatnot, but for the most part, man, Julio Jones is a guy that you can count on. Tough, even when he's injured, he's tough. He's not going to complain. He's not going to bitch. He's just going to continue to play his game. Calvin Johnson had a knee injury. I'm guessing that was played for him retiring. I I don't know. I would say this about Calvin is I think he was pretty much was like Barry Sanders. It ain't shit happening in Detroit, and he wanted to just get away, get paid, and let that be it. So Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson, I got to go with Julio Jones. Julio Jones is completely and much better than Calvin Jones. Your boy Man Mike is out, man. Appreciate you, all you guys subscribing. Continue to subscribe. Tell your people, come subscribe to Mad Mike Sports. Talk about any type of sport, any type of sports. Whatever question you have, I will answer it. And I'm out, man. Peace. I'm gone.